Just yesterday on X, I had somebody who was coming at me, some anonymous person. I'm pretty sure based on what you're saying that you don't know what you're talking about. This person was determined. Election security is voter suppression to another person. And it might be the same action.
Everyone shows up to the conversation with a determination to prove they're right instead of actually trying to resolve anything. You already have your rehearsed comeback, so you're not showing up open to even receive what's being said to you. The difference between listening to respond and listening to understand.
Juvenile court judge paired with the head of the right of center policy think tank. His name is Justin Owen. What's the song that you associate with justice?
Before we begin, I want to frame today's conversation with a little more context, because our guest sits at a really interesting intersection of worlds that don't always get put in the same room. Shaka Mitchell is a Nashville-based lawyer, facilitator, and national leader in the education reform policy space. His work lives at the crossroads of law, civic dialogue, and culture. He serves as a senior fellow at the American Federation for Children and is also part of the Civil Society Fellowship through the Aspen Institute, where the focus is on strengthening how we engage across differences in our rapidly changing society. But what makes his perspective especially compelling is how he bridges policy and humanity. Beyond the legal and policy space, Shaka is the creator and the host of the Come Together Music Project, a platform that uses music as a way to bridge people together across political, ideological, and socioeconomic divides. He also co-hosts the Quality Matters podcast, continuing conversations around systems, education, and the future we're building together. So today isn't just a conversation about music, it's about leadership, civic responsibility, identity, and what it looks like to build common ground when the stakes feel high and the lines feel drawn. Shaka, welcome to the Resolution Room. Anything you'd like to add to that introduction? Maybe who you are outside of any job titles or associations?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I think the most important thing to add is that I'm a husband and I'm a father of three girls, two out of three of which are teenagers. So anybody, if you're like a praying type, you can pray for me because we got a lot of teenage energy in our house right now.
I'm sure that's its own roller coaster. We'll dive into that maybe a little later.
Yeah, well, you're talking about disputes, right? And dispute resolution. We have a lot of that with teens and tweens.
Mm-hmm. I want to start off with something kind of fun with you. We're in Nashville, one of the music capitals of the U.S.
Yeah. And
you describe music as common ground. And I want to talk about how you see sound functioning as a neutral meeting place when everything feels polarized.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, undoubtedly, music has an effect on our brain that other sort of forms of media, whether it's visual, whether it's sort of sensory things, don't have. Music does something really amazing, and that's evidenced by the fact that you see music in every known civilization to man. You see music is evident in all forms of worship and faith traditions, right? There's a musical component. Perfect strangers get together at a concert and will sing a song in unison. If you just did that on the street, you'd be a lunatic,
right?
But we pay money to go do that and stand amongst strangers, and the music can really unify us. So I think music can certainly have a calming effect. It can also have the opposite effect. It can get you really excited and hyped. It's why people listen to it before they go, run on the basketball court and play a game, or listen to it in the locker room. So music does something to us, I think, both at a neurological level and also psychologically. And I think we'll talk some more about that, but it ties us to certain experiences and helps us recall memories that may be good, bad, or otherwise. And so music is a super powerful thing.
Mm-hmm. And just across your experiences being in Nashville in particular, what patterns have you noticed here when it comes to the special genre it's known for and how that translates across context?
Yeah, I think that most people come to Nashville and they expect the honky tonks, they expect country music. I mean, not far from where we're sitting here in the studio, you can go and I'm sure there's people right now downtown listening to country music in a bar with the boots and the hats and everything.
Absolutely.
I think something that I have really come to appreciate, and I first came to Nashville in 1997, so something I've come to appreciate is how much more diverse actually the musical landscape is. Nashville is called Music City because of the Fisk Jubilee Singers. It has nothing to do with country music, actually. So it's this gospel choir. Now it's mostly gospel. Then I don't know that we would have actually even called it gospel, but it's a gospel choir from one of the oldest historically black colleges in the country. That's what gave Music City its name. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And so you get here and you see that there's contemporary Christian music. There's more, kind of older, sort of old school, modern, but still modern Christian music. You've got gospel, there's country, I know a lot of musicians who are just, it's just rock and roll, it's pop music. You go to a school like Belmont, my alma mater, and you see tons of talent, and I would say only a small percentage of it is country. So I think there's a really rich landscape here in Nashville.
I agree. I've been learning that during my time here as well. I always tell people when they're visiting me, I was like, Nashville is more than Broadway. I have to take you off the Strip.
For sure. Well, one thing that's actually on the Strip, but in some ways off, is the National Museum of African American Music.
Absolutely.
It's a phenomenal museum. My kids love it. We've taken my parents, my in-laws. That is a tremendous, museum, and really a testament to music, and not just African Americans who've made music, but how it has, become part of, and in many cases informed, just American music generally, right? This is our music, and you hear the songs that are in there. It's really amazing.
Have you been to, I cannot think of his name. He did a TEDx last year here in Nashville, and he turned his house into a museum over on Jefferson Street.
No.
Oh, man. Okay, I have to remind me to fact check this because I want to include that.
I would love to.
Yeah, it's really cool. So can you think of a time where you've actually seen music sort of soften a conversation that was on its way to escalating?
Boy, on its way to escalating, I don't know if I've seen it like in the heat of the moment, right? In the heat of battle, when people are really kind of at loggerheads with one another. But I have seen many, many times, even in our own project, the Come Together Music Project, I've seen where people who you would think, oh boy, this is going to be a kind of testy moment, I've seen the music really kind of turn the heat down, right? And people come together and they realize, oh, this is just another human being listening to something with experiences, just like I've had experiences. And now I have to, I'm sort of confronted with the fact that I can't just fit you into a box, right? You are unique, regardless of what you look like, regardless of what preconceptions I have. Sometimes the music helps us get past that. So you go, oh, I didn't think this conversation was going to go well, and it changed. I can give you an example.
Yeah.
So actually, here in town, we did an episode with the juvenile court judge, Judge Sheila Calloway, who's phenomenal. Judge Calloway was paired with the head of the right of center policy think tank. His name is Justin Owen. On the surface, these two, they don't look similar. They have different ideologies, and we walked them through kind of our series of questions, and they each responded with a song. And the last question was, what's a song that you associate with justice? And she picked a song, it was a great song, Wake Up Everybody. Wake Up Everybody, it's time to teach a new way. He picked Fight for Your Right to Party by the Beastie Boys. Okay. We had great conversation. These are both great songs in their own right for very different reasons. But by the end of this thing, those two are having conversation, and they were both actually really agreeing with one another on things like the role of government in families and where the limits are and what kind of a court can fix versus what should be, personal responsibility. I really believe if we had tried to talk about those things on the front end before we had listened to the music and gotten to know one another, I don't think we would have gotten to the level of depth and to the level of harmony that we found. But because we sat, we listened to each other, we heard them talk about their concept of justice, how it related to this song, next thing you know, we found a lot of common ground.
Interesting. And you just started to touch on this. Can you go a little deeper about your Come Together Music Project?
Yeah, so the Come Together Music Project, it really just started off as this passion project. The origin story, as many podcasts did, kind of came out of COVID. And as you might remember, I'm sure you experienced this, 2020, 2021, when everybody was distanced and whatnot, I was just really longing for that community. So I started getting together with some guys, some friends of mine, on a monthly basis, and we would send around song categories ahead of time. And then each person would come with a song for that category. So a category might be, what's a song that you, that's kind of a guilty pleasure? What's a song that you don't like, right? What's your favorite Whitney Houston song? And so we just have these categories. Mm-hmm. We get together, we listen to them, whatever. And we did this month after month. And what I found was that, yes, it was really fun to hear new music and to listen and to finally have some community with people at a time when we were all socially distanced and we really needed community, needed to get out of the house. That was great. But I was learning about these people. And these were friends of mine, and I was learning things about them that I just did not know because
through the music
choice, right? A music choice about one category was if you could play an instrument, what would you like it to sound like? Okay, and so one of my friends plays a song, and the reason he picked it is because his dad had played that instrument, and then we're hearing about his relationship with his dad and all this stuff. And I never knew that stuff. I never would have gotten to that stuff but for this song. And so I thought, if we can do this with this group of friends, meanwhile the world is getting so polarized, so divisive, maybe we could have a bigger impact with what we're doing just with our group of friends if we kind of were more intentional about it. And that's kind of how the Come Together Music Project grew. And so the format is really the same now, where I get with two guests, give them some questions ahead of time. They don't know what the songs the other one picked. And then we go through, we listen, and we just talk about, hey, what does that song mean to you? What are the experiences that it conjures up? And we've had some really, really fun sessions.
That sounds really fun. I'd love to do that. Yeah. It reminds me of I think it was back in high school or so, or not high school. I can't think of when it was. Maybe college. You would when you're dating someone, you'll text each other the titles of songs that make you think about the other person or kind of how I'm thinking in this moment. And it's so funny how it seems like that says what you're trying to say better than you can say it.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think that music does something, again, it allows us in some ways to tap into someone else's art form to express something that we'd have a hard time expressing, right? And so, for instance, if you said to me, Shaka, write a song about your wife, I probably wouldn't even start. I wouldn't even pick up, like a pencil and put it to paper, whatever, because I'm not a songwriter.
Right.
I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a musician. That would be really intimidating. But if you said, Shaka, what's a song that makes you think of your wife? Now that I can do, right? And the song might change. If you asked me 3 months from now, or if you asked me, 5 years ago, it would have been a different song because we grow and we evolve over time. Relationships change. And so I really believe that most people with just a little bit of effort can come up with musical ideas that they can kind of map onto their experiences pretty quickly. And in the process, it's a really unifying thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you find music to be sort of the most powerful form of storytelling, or do you think it's authorship in books, movies? I know you're going to be biased here because you work in
Yeah, I'm going to be biased. I'm going to be biased because, we are Come Together Music. Maybe there's a Come Together video project that somebody else can do next. I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm definitely sensitive to the fact that visuals matter, right? I mean, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, we don't quite know what a song is worth. I'm somewhere in the middle, maybe. Okay. But I will say this: it's amazing what science has showed us about our ability to recall when it's linked to sound, right? So, I don't think that visuals are the same, or at least I haven't seen, scientific evidence to this point. But there's lots of research that shows that even say dementia and Alzheimer's patients, sometimes when they hear certain music come to life in a new way, in a revived way, they can recall people and places and things that it seemed like had been lost. The pictures sometimes don't do that. right? So I do think music it is certainly a special thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's shift a little bit and talk about the art of civil dialogue.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about like the lessons you've learned from moderating conversations across political and ideological divides, and some differences between dialogue, debate, and defensiveness, and the role of curiosity and humility in civic engagement. So you work with the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, right? And that experience required navigating tension in real time. So what did you learn about human behavior in conflict-heavy environments?
Well, I was really fortunate to be appointed to the Tennessee State Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. So every state has one of these, and it's a purposefully a multi-partisan group of people. I was appointed as an independent on this commission. So you got Republicans, Democrats, Independents. I was appointed as an independent, and over time I actually got to chair this committee for a number of years. During the years which I chaired the committee, I actually saw, I think, an increase in division. When I first started on that committee, actually, it was rare that we didn't have a unanimous vote. So the whole purpose of the committee is it's just citizens from around the state, and you're on the lookout for potential abuses of civil rights, including infractions on, say, voting rights or other, civil liberties. So, it might be lay people on this, it might be lawyers, anybody can be on, they just have to be appointed. When I first started, when we would put out a report or a press release, there was unanimous consent. That changed over the, 8 years that I was on that committee. And I think it reflected the change in tone that we saw kind of around the country, right? Where now, if you talk about, say, voting, right, to one person, election security is voter suppression to another person. And it might be the same action, right? But often, and what I would see is people could get so dug in on kind of predetermining and predefining what was happening that it was really hard for them to appreciate the other side. So I really felt my role in that was to help us kind of see both sides, to not put my thumb on the scale too much, and really help other members at least consider, hey, what's happening what's the other perspective? And then how do we include all of that in a report? And ultimately it's a U.S. commission, which is over all 50 states. Ultimately, it's that commission that would make decisions. So we're just making recommendations. Hey, you should take a look at this. But even in that, I would say there was a lot of bridge building that had to happen, a lot of patience required as we just listen to, people's portrayal of facts on the ground that you may really disagree with how they're being portrayed.
And how do you define active listening?
Boy, that's great. I'd love to know how you define it, because I feel like you're more of an expert in this. But to me, I think there can be some tactics that help with active listening. Like, are you making some kind of notation and writing things down? I'm a lawyer by training, and so I like to write things down. I got my pad out here because I like to write things down almost as if everything's an affidavit. Not so that I can catch somebody and trap them later on, but really because if I'm writing them down, it helps me to hear it in their voice. And that to me is really important when I used to do this with potential clients or clients. So that's a helpful way to be an active listener. But I really think a lot of it is just sort of in today's world, it's trying to be distraction free. So it's hard to be an active listener if your phone is even sitting on the table with you.
That's why we moved them to the side.
Right? Yeah. That's just the reality. And that's not, I don't think people are trying to be offensive. We're just in this world now where everything from phones to watches to whatever is like beeping and buzzing all the time. And it's hard to really be in sort of listenership, if I can, with another person while we're distracted.
That is a very, very interesting point, and I agree 100%. And I like that you mentioned the part about intent, because I think that if I was to just sum it up in one line of my definition, it's kind of just focusing on the difference between listening to respond and listening to understand. And I think a lot of people are kind of just listening to you and waiting for their chance to interject and add their point and cut, So I think it's very rare that people are actually trying to listen to what's being said to them and process that. And that's why I love the fact that you do write things down, because even then you have what they said, not to throw it back in their face, but then to try to refine it so that you understand it and clarify that, is this what you're trying to say? Or is this what you are saying to me? And clarifying that there's a mutual understanding of what was even just said.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And, just really quickly to go back to the music project, one of the unintended benefits, I think, that I've come to appreciate over time is that if we sit down and we listen to one another's song selections, actually a big part of what we have to do is just stay quiet and listen. I have to listen to you, play it, name the song, play a clip, play part of the song, and then listen to you explain why you selected it. I don't actually even have a role. I don't even have to respond to that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that like staying quiet, listening, being engaged, in some ways, those are some lost skills. And so I didn't intend for that to be a benefit of how we do it, but I've seen that it's a real benefit.
When you have them do this, like, do they pull up the song on their phone, or they kind of just tell you and you bring it up? Like, are their phones near them, or like? Yeah,
usually we've got everything pre-recorded.
Okay.
And then we will play the clips. And so we actually just did one of these recently with a live audience. We did it here in town with Mayor O'Connell, and with a musician. His name is Devin Gilfillian, and like Grammy-nominated artist, really, really talented guy, and had them come and share. And so we were on stage, and then the music would play, and we had an audience of about 100 people, in there listening, because again, it's an immersive experience. So I asked them to bring songs for 4 categories. A song that you would play if you were a DJ and you wanted to get everybody on the dance floor. A song that takes you back to middle school.
Okay.
A song that reminds you of someone or something you've lost. And then a song that you associate with community.
Okay.
And it was, per usual, just really powerful to hear what they brought. And the songs are all over the place. The mayor's middle school song is Vanilla Ice.
Okay.
And, Ice Ice Baby. Devin's song, I believe, was a Casey and JoJo song, which was hilarious. But also, by the way, speaks to where we are in our stages of life, because he picked that song because it took him back to middle school. Well, when I think about that same song, I was already in college, right? Because he's a younger guy. But we still found this common ground because of, All My Life, Casey and JoJo.
Oh, I really do love that song.
Yeah.
I love the overlap of these professions you have that don't seem related at all. How does what you do in music and your projects show up in your space as a lawyer and everything else that you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that the music project has, again, caused me to reflect on how I listen to people and to sort of pause and not jump in as quickly, which is, I probably needed a lot of that. A lot of those lessons. I think it also has helped remind me to humanize people. So, a lot of my work professionally has been in the education choice advocacy space. Even though it's education, that can be a real tense place. There's a lot of disagreement. It can get very political, almost necessarily political. I have been a registered lobbyist. I've been, we do real advocacy work, which means people disagree with you. I think the music thing has helped me come to a place where I go, you know what, you can disagree. We can disagree, and we can still be in communication with one another. Also, nothing is forever, so we can still disagree, and we might come back around and find that we have some other places of agreement. So what are those points of agreement that we do have, and how can I lean into those a little bit rather than just come to the places where we want to strangle each other. And so I think that's helped me. It's something that I have benefited from.
Awesome. And so you started to touch on this earlier. talking about your experience with the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. So in your experience, what derails civil dialogue the fastest and what restores it?
Yeah, what derails civil dialogue the fastest, I think, is maybe, and what restores it, I think, are pretty similar things.
Okay.
I think a lack of humility erodes it, and the inverse of that is humility can help restore it, right? The humility to sort of say, you know what, I don't think I have all the answers right now. I may not ever have all the answers, but even regarding this one small point or issue, I don't know that I have all the answers. And just to be able to say that is, I think, unfortunately, it's something that we don't see very much in the public sphere anymore. I mean, whether it's on social media or politics. Just yesterday on X, I had somebody who was like coming at me, some anonymous person.
Yeah,
it's like whatever, letters, numbers, whatever, coming at me about ostensibly about education law. And I was like, I don't know. I'm sure you don't know really who I am. And I'm pretty sure, based on what you're saying, that you don't know what you're talking about. But boy, this person was,
going in
and determined, like convinced that they had it right, as opposed to saying, hey, I have a question. Here's my question. Can we get to a better place of understanding?
Absolutely.
So I think those are some things when I think about what divides and what maybe brings us back together again. Humility is at the top.
I actually agree, 1,000%. I think that's like the underrated foundation of intelligence, actually. Taking a step back, I'm a Socrates fan. Taking a step back, and just acknowledging you don't have all the answers. And that's actually what makes you the wisest, is knowing you don't have all the answers. You spend your time, even educated folk, you do a PhD program and everybody thinks that means you know everything now. I can tell you very confidently, all I learned is what I don't know, which is a lot.
Right.
And I have a very small, quote unquote, expertise in one very, very specific thing, Yeah. And so that misunderstanding, I think of, but I am I'll be quick to tell you, I don't have the answer for that right now, but let me get back to you. I would never just talk for the sake of talking.
Well, and listen, we're in an age now where expertise isn't what it used to be.
Absolutely.
Right. And so all you have to do now is go online, and there's at your fingertips, you've got 10,000 sort of small e lowercase, experts. And from everything, whether it's the kinds of food that you ought to eat or exercises or how to raise your children or how to, do your hair and nails. I mean, there's experts for everything.
Yeah.
And it turns out that that real life is complex.
Who knew?
Who knew? Who knew? So I think we need to all, be humble when it comes to the things we think we know. I mean, I don't know if you ever do this, but I sometimes think, so I'm closer to 50 now than I am, 40. And I think, oh boy, what would it be like if I looked back at myself 20 years ago? Man, all the things that I didn't know then. Am I going to think the same thing when I'm 70? When I'm, closer to 70? Probably.
I think that should be the goal, the direction you want to go. That's evolution.
Yeah. So which is all to say, then we should take a dose of humility and say, you know what? I'm probably not some perfectly formed, self-actualized person. Here as I sit before you. Still got some work.
Yeah. I think building on the question that I actually asked you about derailing civil dialogue, this is a big part of it for me that I see is, especially like in the mediation space, it's just everyone shows up to the conversation with a determination to prove they're right instead of actually trying to resolve anything. And I find that to be like the biggest hump to get over, because you've already set in your mind, you already have your rehearsed comeback you're going to say if they say this. Like, you've already done this in your head, so you're not showing up open to even receive what's being said to you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about your sort of personal narrative, how identity plays into all of this. Um, so, how have your roles, again, as a lawyer, facilitator, musician, etc., shaped your approach to conflict differently?
Well, I mean, I think that we don't fully take off any of those hats when we go into a new space. I'd say fully because, say, when it comes to something like law, I take the role of, say, confidentiality very seriously. And because that's something that we have to take really seriously as lawyers, I suspect that I think about that differently than, say, a friend of mine who, might have the same instincts, whatever, but doesn't have that kind of fiduciary duty or hasn't had that kind of fiduciary duty in training. Right? So I do think there's some things that can be siloed, but I really think about things. I think about these different experiences giving me a breadth of experience to draw from, and the meme with the guy in front of the board with all the red threads, and he's like connecting all the different things. Now that person is, generally speaking, a lunatic, but that's kind of how my brain works a little bit, where I'm sort of going like, oh, what do I know in this area, and how does it connect to this other part, right? What do I know about? I mean, I'll tell you, I've read a lot of management books. I've also read a fair amount, probably not as many as I should. I've read a fair amount of parenting and education books. Well, there's a whole lot from both worlds that work in the other, right? And those two things are not mutually exclusive. So in that kind of fashion, I mean, I think, I'm always looking for sort of harmonies and elegant solutions. And I think that, I'd like to think the various parts of my life kind of facilitate that and hopefully don't make me too scattered.
Yeah. I think they seem to be complementing each other very well, for what it's worth. I think that's such a creative lens to have across spaces. The arts and the sciences, the creative and the legal logistical. It's very interesting, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you, I think I'd like to think it's helpful in that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I've got 3 kids. They are not the same. Right? They need different approaches sometimes. Like our parenting approach has to be a little bit different. They have different interests. They're just different. They're close in age. You can tell they're sisters, but they're different. And so, I think it's a reminder that there's not one way to be that's going to work for all time and for all people. So like we've got to figure out how do we, if we're going to be in this thing called civilization, it means we're going to bump up against other people. And that we can't be these immovable rocks that never change. That's not being in community.
Right.
Being in community means that we're having to learn, I need to learn about you so that we can actually be in communication with one another.
Absolutely. And then so building on understanding those differences between people across societies, what does belonging and inclusion look like to you?
Man, I think that it is it's probably a core human need to seek out some kind of belonging. I think I'm a person of faith. I think that is probably something that we seek out. I think we want to know that we have got some value, and I think we ask that question because I believe that in fact we do have value. I think we were made by a creator who, in his image and likeness, and I think we've all got some value, but I think we still seek to have that affirmed. I think right now there's a lot of unhealthy outlets where people are trying to get their value and even their value affirmed and their identity defined. And so that's where, I'm even encouraging, whether it's my own children or just other people, I would encourage people to pause and ask some deeper questions about where am I finding my value? How fleeting is that thing in which I'm finding my value? Is it just is it like fast fashion? Just a fad?
Right.
And I mean, we can all think about times when we were, say, teenagers or even younger, and the things we would have said were really valuable and defined us. Now we look back and we go, that's not where it was at.
Yeah.
It was not in that haircut. It was not in that brand of jeans, or even the car you drove. But I think that increasingly, we've become such like a visual and performative culture, and I think that's probably global because of the internet.
Yeah.
That I think we don't have enough folks asking sort of the deeper questions, like what am I doing, building, saying, that's lasting.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love the perspective. So you tackled that question, I think, at the sort of individual level, and I tend to be more of a systems thinker, so I'm always looking to go, So I think when I hear about either one of those terms, I hope that we're taking the time to also question what systems are in place to decide who gets to be in the room, and once people are in the room, it's one thing to invite someone and have them seated there. Then you can say, oh, check this off my list. They're here now. But what are we doing to make sure they feel empowered and stay in that room as well? And so I think that's more at a systems level that I don't think it gets enough attention. I think we get a little consumed with the I of how we do everything, that we're not stopping to challenge the institutions, the policies, the structures in place that keep allowing this dysfunction to continue.
Oh, that's really interesting. Something else that makes me think of,
Please.
if I might, it also makes me think of the element of time. And what I mean is, I think sometimes, well, most times, we actually don't give these processes enough time to do the work that they need.
That's fair.
Meaning, sometimes the room, if you will, or if we use kind of the metaphor of the table, like who's seated around the table, sometimes I think we might have the right people around the table, but if they don't spend enough time with each other either, then it can be a little cursory, right? And so I think about an experience that I was really fortunate to have. I was part of this thing called the Civil Society Fellowship through the Aspen Institute. That group pulled together, in my class, 16 of us from around the country for a 3-year fellowship. 3 years.
Oh, wow, that's long. That's a long one.
It is a long time. And when we got together for usually 6 days at a time, 6 nights, 7 days at a time. So this was not Zoom meetings, right? We are with each other, warts and all. It's a little bit like this civil society, intellectual public policy, real world. Wow. We didn't always stay in the same house, although we did once. And one of the things I would say is where we finished at the end of the 3 years, and I would say now these are my people for life now. But where we finished at the end of the 3 years is so different from where we started night one. I remember going into the room night one and we're all looking around at each other, and you've read the bios, but you're just trying to like typecast a little bit. And I would throw those bios out. But it took time. And so I think that there's a time element too where, I think I sign on to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's see, do we have some systems in place that are encouraging a range of, views, thoughts, perspectives, experiences, backgrounds, all of it.
Yeah.
But also let's give it enough time.
Right.
Because if you throw all the ingredients kind of in the crock pot, it takes time to come together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's an excellent point. And I'd even build on that by adding the elements of commitment and consistency, because it does take time. People, we implement it, and just after 30 days, it doesn't work. That's how we are with anything. We want the fast results. And so any type of transformation takes time. And I think the easiest one to start off with that's just people relate to is always like the body gym transformation, like everyone does the same thing. You start off by going, even if you manage to go 2 weeks to 30 days straight and you see the results, you see it's working, and then you stop going to the gym because now you feel like you achieved it, and then you realize 2 weeks later you gained 30 pounds right back.
Right.
You have to keep doing it to make it even work or last. So understanding that essentially transformation is endless, like the process is endless. We're going to have to keep at it. And the reality is, I don't think most people are up to the challenge or the commitment and consistency it takes to truly see transformation through.
Man, you might be onto a totally new topic in book here, because I think there's so much there.
Yeah.
I think part of it, you could apply that what you just said about the commitment, the consistency, the time. That's not just personal, individual sort of improvement, but apply that to relationships, right? I mean, let me tell you, if I'm talking to folks who are about to get married, you want to know what you're going to have to do in 10 years? The same things you have to do in year 1, right? Like, you have to be ready to listen to your spouse. You have to be ready to apologize quickly, to reconcile. You have to be ready to be communicative. Those things don't change.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And that's actually one of the biggest surprises to me in my relationship. It's like my longest relationship. The consistency is something I never gave too much thought to. That is the most reassuring part of the relationship, is when you just kind of know what you're going to get from a person. They don't walk in the door every day and a brand new person. I'm like, who is this? And like you said, the things you did to get me, you're doing to keep me as well.
Yeah. And this is a relationship thing. It's this is why I think this is your next book, because even in the taking it to a sort of spiritual realm, this is what Christians would call sanctification. This is the road and the constant process of moving towards holiness. You don't get there. You're not walking around. We're not walking around with a bunch of holy people. You might be walking around with a lot of people who are on the path, but it takes discipline, it takes consistency, commitment, to get there.
Yeah, I love this conversation of the personal practices to the systemic insights. So, diving a little deeper on this, what cultural narratives do you believe need some rewriting? And who must be part of that process?
Yeah, what cultural narratives need rewriting? Well, we're here where we sit right now doing this interview. We just finished up the Super Bowl. So we just finished up the Super Bowl, and I, from my mom's side, am of Puerto Rican descent. Okay. And so probably a lot of folks needed to realize that that Puerto Ricans are Americans. I don't know if that's a cultural narrative, but
don't get me started on that.
But I'll tell you what, I watched it, and it was such a joyful celebration.
Yeah.
Loved it. I think, and by the way, I called it. I knew that album was album of the year when it came out. Like, my kids in the carpool were listening to it from day one. It was so much fun. And one of the things that Bad Bunny said, he said, "God bless America." And I think that there has been this narrative in the past few years that if you're critical, you're totally disengaged. And I actually think one of the things that has made sort of, if I can say American culture, because that's such a broad thing, but something that has made certainly this experiment that we call America work for such a long time is the ability to be critical and to say, hey, just like we were talking about with relationships and everything else, we're not there yet, but we are still on the road. And if we can be committed to the ideals that are, say, written down on paper, but have never been actualized to their completion, let's just stay on the road. Let's keep orienting ourselves. And being critical doesn't mean that you're anti-American or un-American.
Right.
In fact, it might mean that you're the most American of us, that we want to really get there. And the way to do it is to keep putting in work.
I absolutely agree. When you're not able to question yourself or anything that defines you, what are we doing?
Yeah. So I think that, people, and and I know your show's not political, and I don't mean to make this political, but but this is something for my friends on the left and the right, where we can. I would encourage folks to say it's okay to ask why we aren't doing better, and by the way, we need you to stay in the conversation. We don't need you to just stick your head in the sand or disengage, and please don't leave and run away to Canada. I need you to stay in this country. We need you. We need you here, but we've got to coexist, and I think we're better for it.
Absolutely. If you had one wish for how leaders approach conflict differently in 2026, what would that be?
I think in 2026, I think maybe we just continue to pull on that listening thread. But now I am really hooked on this idea of time a little bit because we are in such an instant results. I think about my friends who are in the private sector, and if you're in a world where you're having to report quarterly earnings, it turns out some things take longer than 90 days. And so I think we've got to be patient. If Rome wasn't built in a day, neither will, today's corporations, today's institutions, organizations. Now, I think at some point, folks need to be accountable, whatever. But yeah, I think maybe patience. Maybe that's it. I think it would be appropriately placed patience would be really great.
Yeah, I like that. I think mine would be, I don't know how to say this, but I just want there to have more of more humanity being put back into just everything. I feel like after a while, whether it's corporate or politics, whatever it is, we start talking around a topic so much that we forget people are part of what made this a topic in the first place. When we talk about somebody who died, it starts to just become about all the logistics around how that person died. A person died. Does that not register? You know what I mean? And there's no sort of it doesn't sink in the permanence of what just happened. That person's family is not going to see them again, not going to talk to them again. I know you get up in your day and you move on and nothing happened, and that's just kind of how society works. But when you can take a second and just pause long enough to really let what just happened process, and just imagine for 10 seconds what that would feel like if that was you or someone you love, because I think we have a bad habit of we just can't seem to understand what people are going through unless we're going through it. I really just think we need to just pause.
Yeah, inject some humanity.
Seriously, in every part of just everything we're doing right now. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I like that. I'll sign on to that.
Thank you. So, as we start winding down, I'd like to ask, first off, just to wrap this all up, what music has taught you about yourself that traditional conflict frameworks never could?
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that that music has taught me, one is that there's no, I don't think there's a perfect genre. I think we go through seasons, and so again, I think it's taught me a little bit maybe to be nimble, maybe to appreciate that there are always other perspectives. Right? I mean, from week to week, I find myself listening to very different types of music, not even week to week. Sometimes, it happens overnight. I just go, I'm done with that for right now. And I'm listening to something very different. And maybe that's some intrinsic need that I feel. Maybe I'm just testing something new out, whatever. And so I think that the ability to be nimble, to appreciate that there are other perspectives out there, that's something that I think is, you don't always get, you're told that in the sort of conflict resolution space. Put yourself in the shoes of the other person. Well, I'm in these shoes. That's hard to do sometimes, especially if you're emotionally invested in it, right? So it's sort of to do that accurately, if I'm really going to put myself in your shoes, I need to have listened to you for a minute and kind of know what that's like. And I think music helps you do that, because now you're going, oh, okay, what is this person really talking about? Let me listen to it again. And that sort of active listening to a song interesting things can emerge from that. And so I think there's something about both the process there and maybe substantively that I would apply into the conflict management space.
That. And as always, because this is the resolution room, we have to have a signature resolution question. So when you think about the future we're trying to build, beyond polarization, beyond fear, what is the single non-negotiable shift you believe each of us must make to move from division toward genuine connection?
I think the single biggest shift that we can probably make right now is to bring as much as we can back into real life and offline. Because I really think that the online formats, whether it's social media, whether it's email and even communication, media, I think that those things corrupt our communication. Or at least they distort it, right? It's very hard, even with, think about people that you're close with. When you get a thumbs up emoji, what are you supposed to do with that? Does that, sometimes it means it's okay. Sometimes it's sarcastic. Sometimes, right? I think we've got to bring things back in real life. I think there's a real value. We were made to be in proximity with one another. So I think as proximal as we can make things and make our interactions, that's what people need to resolve to do. And I know we're in this stage, and I'm subject to it. I'm thinking about all the different ways that I can maximize my use of AI and be more productive, etc. Okay, great. I hope that I can maximize AI and be more productive so that I can be more present in my relationships with people. That's the trade-off. I don't make me be more productive so that I can be more productive so that I can be more productive. Right? That's a loop. I don't want to be in that loop.
Right.
I want to do it so that I can spend more time with my family, so that I can be the friend that I want to be, and not the forgetful friend who is too busy, checking email.
Right. Can you let everyone know what's next for you?
Yeah, next for us. I'm really pleased that with Come Together Music, we are partnering with TEDx Nashville this year. So in 2026, so we're going to be doing a series of events, monthly events, starting in April.
Okay.
So I hope folks will check that out. We'll be doing them in person. I think live at the Analog. These are going to be once a month, and already I'm looking at the sort of prospective guest list, and there's some really cool guests. And again, we're just trying to show how music can be used to deepen existing relationships, create new ones, and build bridges. And I think in Music City, a lot of people already appreciate music, but might not appreciate how it can help them get closer to someone else, even somebody that thus far they may not think they have a lot in common with. So that's what's next. We're excited about that.
Amazing. And where can everyone follow you and your work?
Yeah, you can follow that work at cometogetherpodcast.com. We're on all the social media channels. You can see it on YouTube. And then you can find me on Substack, Shaka's Substack. So
amazing. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.